Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are going to get started here in just a few minutes. Welcome to the Aptly Learning event, Kickstarting Your Marketing Career. It will just take us a minute here to get situated. And in the meantime, the chat should be open. And if you want to let us know where you're coming from, like where you're located, say hi. That would be great. All right. Just give me 1 minute here. I'm getting our live stream over on YouTube kicked off. Um,
And while we do that, I can share that I am joining from Palo Alto. Our backgrounds are kind of revealing where we are, about where we are. You see the Golden Gates not too far from here. Um, so yeah, and I think you see Caroline and Rebecca, they're joining me from our office in Palo Alto as well.
right. Give me 1 sec here. My live stream does not seem to want to engage, but we can fix it. We've got this. Oh, here we go. All right, we're all set. Again, welcome everyone. We'll get started here in just 1 minute. I'm going to give everybody some time to come in, and we will kick things off here in just a minute. Like I said, in the meantime, again, welcome everyone. We'll get started here in just 1 minute. My YouTube live just went live while I was talking. I could hear my own voice, but we'll get started here in 1 minute, and it looks like here in just a minute. Oh, I see folks from Brazil, Colombia, Houston, Texas. That's where I was born. Pakistan, Nepal. Welcome. Belarus, Senegal. It's great to see folks from all over the world here. And with that, again, thank you all for being here. We're going to be presenting today the topic, Kickstart Your Marketing Career. A few things to note. We'll get started with some housekeeping. We had quite a response to this webinar. Spots. We expect the event to be full. And if you do get disconnected, don't panic. If you can't get back into the Zoom, make sure you check out Aptly Learning YouTube channel. It's live streaming there, so you can always catch it kind of right where you left off. If you go ahead and jump over into YouTube and find Aptly Learning, we'll go ahead and drop the link in the chat too, so you'll have it. And if you want to go ahead and subscribe, you'll be able to also watch the full event afterwards on the YouTube channel. For those of you who have been wondering, we are also recording this here in Zoom, and everybody who registered, whether you attend the whole event, don't attend the event at all, or are here the whole time, will receive a recording. So keep an eye out for that. It takes a little while for the video to load and for me to be able to get the link, but we send those out within about a day. So you should see a link to the recording tomorrow. You can ask questions in the Q&A section here in Zoom. At the end of the presentation that Anka and Rebecca will be doing, we will answer questions. We'll be able to see the questions come in. We won't necessarily be answering them in the Q&A section, but we'll have those and we'll answer kind of the most popular questions in the time that we have left. So if one other thing about the chat, it's open. Please keep the conversations on topic if you can. It can be really distracting to have a lot of stuff going on in the chat, particularly during the presentation. And please don't share your personal social media accounts. If you'd like to network, feel free to jump over into our Facebook group for Aptly Learning. We'll add the link to that as well. That is a great place to meet other learners, to share about what you're learning, discuss topics in social media and marketing analytics. So please feel free to join the Facebook group if you'd like to network, and keep the chat clear for any issues or things that come up. To get us started, I'd like to introduce Anka Adenart. She's one of our founders and the CEO of Aptly. Anka is also our social media marketing and our marketing analytics programs. So I'm sure some of you recognize her and we know her already. Also joining us is co-founder Rebecca Wapinski. She's the COO of Aptly. Rebecca's career has included teaching and social media agency experience. She and Anka have hired their fair share of marketing and social media professionals and are excited to be here today to discuss how you can launch your career in these industries. So with that, Anka, I will hand it off to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Eileen. And thank you also to the rest of the Aptly team for helping us set this up. This always comes with these technical, um, challenges. So I'm always great that someone else takes care of them. Everyone, welcome. I'm very glad that you joined us. Today's session is called Kickstart Your Marketing Career. And the focus will be very practical. It's really all about how do you build experience? How can you kind of stand out? And then also, how can you leverage AI for your kind of career in marketing? And you may have joined some of our previous webinars. We're not going to go through all of the elements of AI, but I will highlight like how you can actually use AI to help you in this career search. Just for those of you that haven't kind of met Aptly before, a quick intro. We've helped over 1 million learners build their marketing careers. We are partnered with Meta, with Google, with Coursera, for whom we build kind of a lot of education material, but with whom we also interact and get a little bit more of a sense of kind of what's going on in the job market these days. And it is our mission to make digital skills accessible to everyone. So with that, that's kind of the spirit behind this presentation. So let me kind of get started. What I would really want you to walk away with today is first, kind of a sense of how to create kind of instant experience. And I'll talk about why that's important. And then also, I want you to kind of understand that there's nowadays kind of a bit of a portfolio over resume approach and a strategy that you can apply. And then, of course, we'll talk about how to use AI as your career accelerator. While I do that and while we get started, one of the things that I wanted to ask is kind of where are you in your journey? So you may be right now just exploring, kind of trying to figure out, okay, what are the job options in this space? Or you may be finishing your coursework. You may already be in the midst of looking for your first role, but for some, it may also be looking for a new role. Or maybe you're freelancing already. What I would say, drop in the chat a quick note. That helps us to kind of get a sense of who was attending the webinar, where our kind of students and people who are interested in Aptly are, so that over time we can tailor some of our content. So feel free to drop us a note. Would be great to know that. So actually, things have changed a bit in the job market. Not too long ago, really, the formula seemed to be pretty simple, although it came with its own challenges as well, I would say. But basically, the idea was you study for a particular topic, a certain career, you go into an internship, and then from that flows like some experience, and you kind of potentially get hired into a job. Nowadays, it's actually a little bit different. There is still a lot of demand for digital marketers, but the proof that people are asking for to see whether you are potentially a good digital marketer has changed a bit. The proof is really more employers are looking for a little bit more of proof of experience, kind of a portfolio, some AI fluency, and expertise in specific tools. And that's kind of the combination that seems to be really interesting. And you may say, whoa, that's kind of challenging, right? So how do I prove all that? But what I'm trying to do in this webinar is help you understand that this is something you can turn to your benefit when you're looking for a job. It's actually good news. And I would say good news in like the specific tools you can learn, and you can learn those through programs online, like the programs we provide on Coursera. You can find other programs as well. So if you say, okay, I really want to learn about Meta's tools, for instance, there are the Aptly courses, but there are also Meta's Blueprint courses, etc. So they themselves really do a lot of effort to provide material into kind of the general ether so that you can find that material and study these tools and get a good sense. And then I will go through how you can create your portfolio and actually show your AI fluency to prove that you have what it takes to kind of be ready for a job that may be advertised. So, how do you really do that? I think one of the things that we will talk about a lot is that there are opportunities in a vast area of different kind of, there are different types of opportunities, let's put it that way. So you've got small and mid-sized businesses that are opening jobs for digital marketers. There are, of course, tech startups all over. There are also bigger tech companies. There are marketing agencies. There are also local nonprofits and groups that all are looking for digital marketers. And you may come across jobs in either one of these. And what you will often find, and this is one of the things that I see a lot when I look at job descriptions as well, there is often this request or this ask for some experience. And that kind of offers us this challenge. Okay, people ask me for experience, but I kind of need to get a job first to build up that experience. So, how do I prove that experience? How do I get started in my first job in digital marketing if everyone is asking me for some experience for which I actually need that job? That's one of the main challenges we come across, and that's the part I think that nowadays is easier to solve than it ever was. And I want to kind of really talk about that specifically. So you will often encounter jobs that say requires 2 years of experience. Don't worry too much about that. Experience can mean many things. It does not mean you've had to have held a job for 2 years in digital marketing. Don't let those job descriptions scare you away at all. What you can do is you can actually find projects yourself where you can build your experience. And now we're really talking about projects that you're often going to do as kind of a volunteer. You're going to offer your services to different organizations to try and build up your portfolio of experience. That's how you can show to these employers that ask for 2 years of experience. They may tell you when you get to actually interview for a job like that, so well, tell us about your experience, and then you will be confidently able to do that because you've built up your own experience in a volunteer type of way. How do you do that? Well, you can go find projects in many different places. So think about first local businesses that you may frequent. Maybe you go buy a sandwich for lunch, and that business may or may not be online yet, but they may be able to use some help. Or there may be a local restaurant that you like that maybe has an Instagram account. I have one here, for instance. Like I like this particular Italian restaurant here in our area. They have an Instagram account. And at some point, we actually went to the owners, we as Aptly, to tell them, hey, we would like to help you out a little bit and see whether we can look at your Instagram account, give you some suggestions, manage some of your posts so that we can see, our purpose here was so we can learn from it and use it in our courses. But your purpose could be that you go to these local businesses and you say, hey, I can help you a little bit because my goal is to build some experience and to be able to show that I have it. So why not? Another type of organization you can go to are nonprofits. There may be charities you're involved with, or maybe you like an animal shelter in your neighborhood, and they kind of need to attract more volunteers. They need to have more people, so they have a need for digital marketing. So another opportunity to go and look for a project for you to do. You can also potentially join student clubs or community groups in your school if you're in school. And again, there you can do a lot in terms of digital or social media marketing. Maybe you have friends or family that have a business and you may want to help them out a bit. Or you could say, hey, I'm just going to work on my personal branding. That's an option as well. I'm going to kind of set up my own TikTok account, my own blog, my own page that represents me, where I kind of have some content that tells people more about what I do. Could be, for instance, you're a freelancer in social media marketing. You may want to set up like an account that gives people some tips, for instance. Now, keep that in mind. A project like that you can easily find. There are many places. Once you have an idea, like you have something in mind, then what do you do? Well, you can reach out to this business and you are not really asking them for a job, but you're offering them some help. You can tell them, like, hey, can I help you run your Instagram account or your TikTok for 1 month to grow your reach, for instance? It's kind of a very easy yes for many of these businesses because believe me, if you manage like a restaurant or a coffee shop or something like that, or even a volunteer organization, there's so many tasks you have, and social media marketing may not be something that can occupy you for a whole day. But if you tell them, like, hey, I'm going to help you for 1 month and I'll kickstart what you're doing, and then you can use that and I'll hand it over to you, that is really helpful for them. So then what would you actually do for them? So first you would basically build kind of an easy campaign brief. So what you would want to do is really put on paper what your goal is. Say, imagine they tell you, yes, you can do this for a month. Put on paper what your goal is going to be for that month. Then create 3 to 5 creative assets. So that could be posts for that Instagram account, for instance. Create a few of those. Build a content calendar. Say, hey, here is what I plan on doing over that month. And that's something that you can bring to that organization. You can say, hey, look, this is what I'm planning. This is what I'm going to do. What do you think? And what they may say is like, oh, wow, you have this particular post. You know what? We had this picture or we had this video from an event. You can use that for your post. So they may have a few more ideas that you can add. Create a content calendar. All of this, so your campaign brief that you've got on paper now, your creative assets, your posts that you create, that calendar, those are all elements you're going to put in your portfolio. So you're going to keep that because later on, this is going to be proof to another employer that you knew what steps to take to properly manage a social media account, for instance, right? And then when you've done this over a month, you're going to summarize the results. You can look at the data. You ideally, and you ask access to the Instagram account. Ideally, you look at Instagram insights or kind of the reports that you get out of what your posts did. And you can look at the reach you created, the engagement, kind of the key metrics that we typically discuss in our courses. You highlight those and you give people an interpretation of that. Then you go back to your business and hopefully you can give them some insights, things they can now do with what you've done, and they can run with that for the next month and the month after. So, but in the meantime, what you have is a portfolio and some experience you can show. And then you can say, hey, I'm going to repeat this type of exercise maybe for another business that I know. Now, you may say, well, but it is challenging. Around me, I don't really find businesses, or I may not feel that comfortable reaching out to a business. That's possible. And then you can do something that we call spec work, which is really just like you find a brand or a company that you think is interesting. They may already be doing a lot of Instagram work or TikTok or anything like that. You go and explore and get a good sense of what they're doing right now. Say you have a brand in mind. Let's say it might even be a really big brand, right? You might think of Subaru, for instance, right? A car brand. And you say, oh, wow, they're doing all of these things. But if I were in their shoes, these were the additional things that I would do. And then you could do the exact same thing. Again, you go through, here is the campaign brief. Here is kind of a few posts of what I would put up on their Instagram, for instance, or on their TikTok. Here is the calendar that I would put together. And this is what I anticipate as results that would come out of this, linking back to the goal that you set for it. Again, that is something that you can build a portfolio around. And if you're creative, you can come up with really good posts. You can do some video yourself. You can do some kind of user-generated stuff. You don't have to go talk to the brand. It's okay to just build all of that as if it were a project that maybe you have to hand in for school, right? And then you later on go to an employer, and when the employer asks about your experience, you can bring up your portfolio and show them and say, these are some of the things that I have done or I've worked on. Ideally, you pair it with that kind of volunteer company portfolio that we just went through, but this is an exercise you can do as well. It's also good to just kind of go through. Maybe there's a brand you say, hey, I really love this brand, but I'm not so fond of their social media strategy or their digital marketing. And you can go through it and evaluate it and highlight what you would do differently. Those are the types of things that employers are actually very kind of eager to see from their future social media marketers. Now, in all of that, you will be using AI as well. As we know, we've said it before in some of our previous webinars, AI is not replacing marketers at all, really, it isn't, but it is replacing the marketers who do not use AI. Sometimes, so I've interacted with people who feel like, well, but if I use AI and like I've actually made AI help me create my post, is a future employer just going to think like kind of I cheated my way through this, right? I just had AI do the work and this is not really kind of my own original work. Well, actually, no. An employer is going to expect you to use AI because nowadays it's so common for everyone to use it that whoever you're going to go to, they are usually a bit concerned about their competitor being faster than they are or being better at using AI. So they're going to require from all their people in their marketing department that they know how to use AI and that they can actually prove that they do use AI. So, as a result, what I would say in your portfolio, it's really important to show that you have used AI for your posts, for your copy, maybe even for the images, but really show that you know where AI plays a role and that you know how to use it. And if you're like, okay, I'm a little bit not so sure how to use it, check out some of our previous webinars or some of our courses that are actually talking specifically about that, right? So where does AI come in social media marketing? How can you prompt well for social media marketing, etc. So it's not that hard, and AI really is a tool that you all have access to and you can use. Even the free tools can be very helpful to get started with. So don't be afraid to put it in there. On the contrary, show that you know how to use AI. So it helps at every stage. So for ideation, for instance, it can help you generate like 10 ideas in 10 seconds easily. It can help you create kind of a target audience. It can help you develop your persona a little bit more. It can help you with copywriting. It can even help you with analytics. So think about those different steps. And when you're building up your portfolio, for every step, think about how could AI help me? Which AI tool would I use here? Try it, see what it does for you, and then show in your portfolio that you used it. So just say which tool it was that you used. So that's how you kind of show your AI fluency. Employers want to see it. They want to see that you can use these tools. So put things in your portfolio like I used ChatGPT for audience persona development, for instance, or I used Canva Magic Studio for asset resizing. Things like that could really help. If you say, okay, but these kind of advanced tools, maybe like Canva, I don't have access to the AI elements of that. Don't worry about that. Then just use ChatGPT, Gemini, kind of the free versions that you can find. They can do a lot in terms of helping you brainstorm, getting the persona right, and even coming up with some creatives. You also, if you use Meta and if you use Instagram, etc., you'll see that many of these AI tools are already built in. And it's okay to refer in your portfolio to, I relied on the AI built in into Instagram to resize this or to generate more images or something like that. So don't be afraid to mention it. On the contrary, try to provide proof. It's really important. So, and then you kind of build this all into a beautiful portfolio. You can do that with many different tools. Your portfolio can be a Google Doc, right? That you then in the end download as a PDF when you show it to an employer, right? So that's kind of just create it as slides, download it as a PDF. That's an option. If you say, hey, I want to go a step further and I'm going to create my own website, you can use a tool like Wix, for instance, and there are actually free parts of that. So where you can just build your own website to make it all look very polished, say something about yourself, upload your resume, but also your portfolio. You can use a tool like Canva that has great kind of templates. Some part of Canva is kind of paid for, but there are some things you can find that may be free. Some of you may work with tools like Notion, for instance, to organize all your thoughts. You can do that too. As you build your portfolio, just make sure that you've got your title, then a good goal, like really make it clear, like this is what I wanted to do, whether it's spec work or whether it is kind of a volunteer activity you did. Build your goal and then give some visuals, like some nice things you did, the posts, etc. Put those visuals in, your conclusions and your contribution and the results of this. The other thing that's important when you do this is also show in your portfolio that you can provide some real suggestions. Like it's really important to, yes, show a few data, but then what did you take out of this information? Like, what was the conclusion really? Or what did you suggest to your local sandwich shop? What should they do next? And that gives an employer a good idea of, hey, you kind of know how all of this works and you know how to distill information out of this and give good suggestions towards next step. So with that, I would say it's important that you start this today. If you're looking into getting a job, start doing this. Identify one local client, so to speak, or a spec brand that you like. Run your 4-week project. Document everything in your portfolio. And here I said a one-page portfolio. If you were to put it as a PDF, it could be more pages if it is a presentation, but a neat kind of summary. It doesn't have to have too much information because they won't have time to look through all of that. But here you've got some experience to show, and always add your AI workflow. So those would be my suggestions as to how you start. If you are going through our social media marketing program, you will find that throughout the program, we have many activities, right? We ask you to create a post, set up a Facebook page or an Instagram page for a fake brand in this case. Those elements, so the output of those activities also build towards your portfolio. So that's another way to get your portfolio brand started. So it's a little bit like that spec project I talked about. Yes, not an existing brand, but a fake brand, but that's okay. And then you can tell your employer, like, I was in a program set up by Meta together with this company aptly, and I did this on Coursera. I've got certification to prove it, and I have all these beautiful things that I worked hard on to kind of really show that I have some experience. You'll find that in many of our courses, these activities are often optional, right? And you may say, oh, it's optional, I don't have that much time. And I get it. When you're a student, there's a lot to do, right? There's kind of a lot to go through. But my suggestion would be if there are these types of activities that lead to a potential portfolio piece, try not to skip them. Kind of take the time to do this because it will help you to build something that you can show to an employer. And that's really how I think you can get started and you can get kind of tackle many of these great opportunities that do exist. There are many jobs out there. They're definitely not disappearing because of AI, on the contrary. So I would say good luck on your search. And with that, I would like to open to questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Anka. And I will say, I do believe that you answered many of the questions that were coming in through chat, but we do have some additional questions and, keep the questions coming. We're happy to address them if we have time. And if we don't have time on this call, our Facebook group is a great place to join the conversation and learn from other learners as well, and network and connect with other people who are also interested in digital marketing and who are looking for roles in that space as well. So the link is in both. The link has been posted. So I just saw somebody just posted, what's the link to the Facebook group? The link has been posted and will be posted again in both the Facebook group and on YouTube as well. And we are collecting questions from both. Someone had asked that as we were going through as well. We were collecting questions from both places. So one of the big questions that or theme we've seen, both in our Facebook community, but also on the chat is, what do you think about the 2 years of experience has this become such a common requirement, even for entry-level marketing roles? And do you think that that's surmountable for folks who are really just starting out?
Yeah, I think that is a great question. And it's one that I get so many times. And now, I was thinking about this because I'll give you a little bit of a story of when we were setting up job descriptions. At some point, and this is in a previous job, we were also looking for entry-level people. And when we write the job description, it is like one of these kind of very easy throw-in bullets to say, oh, 2 years of experience. Like it's kind of good. Like, oh yeah, it's great if someone already has experience. So why not put it in our job description? And I think that is how many of these entry-level job descriptions are created. You just think like, oh yeah, why not? But you don't really think about the receiver on the other end and that it might make some people hesitant to apply to your entry-level job. I actually think that as an employer, you could miss some great candidates that way. And one of the things that I've liked as an employer is that when you get someone who comes fresh out of school or who just finished their studies, there are a few real advantages. One, they come with fresh new ideas that they got through their network in school or through their peers. It's super helpful to catch those ideas and they disappear very soon when people go into the workplace. When people go in the workplace in their first job, really often kind of formats their thinking a little bit more because people start to feel like, hey, this is how things are getting done in the real world. This is how it should be done, like the way that this company that I started with did this thing. And sometimes that's not really what I want the person to do when they come to my company. So having someone, if I really want someone who's at an entry level, I don't want them to come too much with preset ideas of how something works. So therefore, that 2 years of experience is something that as an employer, you should give real thought to whether or not you put that in that job description. And I don't think people do that. And that leads me to my advice for you. If you see this, I would almost say disregard it and apply anyways. If someone catches you on this and says like, hey, but I did ask for 2 years of experience, then I would really that it's okay to say, I saw that, but I was so encouraged by your job description. I really liked the company. I liked kind of how you described this. It seems to be a great fit for me. And I feel like some of the experience that I gained throughout my studies and the portfolio I was able to create with this local company make up for some of the experience that you may have been seeking. And if you give me a chance to explain it to you, then I can actually show you why I may still be a great candidate. And I would really say, don't hesitate. Like on that part, disregard it. If they really feel like, well, it had to be 2 years of experience, yeah, you haven't lost that much, right? You've maybe lost a little bit of time. And if you get through some of the interview rounds, then you've gained some experience interviewing. I wouldn't make it too much of a worry. If someone asks for 5+ years experience, that would make me hesitate a little bit more because that's usually for like jobs that are at a slightly different level from an entry level. So you may say, okay, maybe this one I don't apply to, but the 2 years experience, I would say go ahead and apply anyways. Don't let that discourage you.
And I think that, great answer, Anka, and thank you. So I think the biggest takeaways from there are don't be afraid if you don't meet all of the requirements on a job description, including those 2 years that are often required for entry level. And then, you touched on this, how do you promote yourself and how do you describe that you do have some experience and what might go into that portfolio? And you did a great job of explaining that, throughout the presentation. We did have a few people ask around what types of hands-on projects or like truly count for a meaningful experience for someone who's just starting out. And coupling that, there were a few people who also asked specifically about our programs on Coursera, the Meta Social Media Professional Certification. How can that help you prepare for a role?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. So Let me go through a few things. And you see it, this is also structured in our social media marketing program. The first part is really all about kind of free social media marketing, right? Because when you think about it, social media marketing has there's two angles to this. There's a large part that you can do for free. We call it organic social media marketing. And then there's a part to it that is really more advertising. First, we cover that free element, and there are really important tasks there. One is you have to build your presence. You have to set up a good Facebook account or a good Instagram account, for instance. And you may say, well, that's easy, right? Because Instagram walks you through it. And that's true, they do. They tell you what to put in there. But it comes with some thinking around how do I profile my brand? What should go in there? What should be on my page? What is my plan in general terms when I'm going to start posting on this page? So that's one task. Helping someone to set that up is actually a really good exercise. Then the second task, and that's the one that I described a little bit in this portfolio, is building up content for that page, right? So you have to think through, what am I going to post? And in our course, we go through different types of posts, right? So it could be that you say, hey, I really want to put lots of educational posts up. Say, for instance, you're working with a volunteer organization. Let's say it's an animal shelter, and there's certain education that you think you can give people to better take care of pets, for instance, right? So that might be one type of post. It could also be that you say, well, I think it should be a mix between educational posts and some fun behind the scenes posts. So creating those and building a content calendar that has that variety and that hits on the right kind of brand alignment with whatever company you're working with, that's another thing you can do. And we teach you some of that in the social media marketing course as well. Like, how do you come up with ideas? How do you create good posts? What copy should go in there? What hashtags do you use? Like, those are the types of things that you will then prove in your portfolio that you know how to do that. And that's super valuable, because a social media marketer, while they may be busy doing some actual paid for advertising, the non-paid part of it is at least as important. The other part that's also important is, how are you going to interact with people that engage with your posts? How do you react to comments, etc.? That's another piece that you can show in the portfolio. Then you may say, well, actually, advertising is another thing that I would like to be able to prove that I can do this. In social media marketing, in our course, we have simulations for that. So where you can actually go through a simulated way of how you set up an advertising campaign in Ads Manager, Meta's product to advertise on Facebook or Instagram. But you could, for instance, if you go to a restaurant and you say, hey, if they say, well, one of our goals is to just get more people to know about us, like we would like to reach more people. At some point, your Facebook page or your Instagram account, just with free marketing or your kind of free posting, you may kind of tap out and you may need some more audience. And one way to do that is to start advertising. And you could tell the business like, hey, if you would trust me with an advertising campaign where I'm going to spend, let's say, $100 a week, or whatever your local currency is and whatever is kind of meaningful in your area, it's a small budget, but you could use that budget to show that you can create an advertising campaign for that business. And that involves things like, okay, what's my ad going to look like? What picture am I going to use? What copy is going to go in the ad? Where am I going to post the ad? What's my target audience? And you can detail that as well in your portfolio that you did this. So that's another thing that you can do. If you're working on, if you were to say, well, but I'm not so much interested in social media marketing, I want to do search advertising. We have a course on that as well. Actually, that's with Google. And then you would say, well, I'm going to use some Google Ads budget. And sometimes Google actually provides coupons where you can get like some extra, some free money. You can try that as well. Actually, Google also has some programs running. If you are working with a non-profit, you can actually get quite a bit of free money to advertise. So that might be another way. Like, hunt for that, go to your local organization and say, hey, I found this thing. If you advertise for $50, you get $50 free or something like that. and then try it out and show that in your portfolio. So those are all very meaningful exercises. The other thing you could do is you could say, hey, I'm really thinking about behind the scenes posts. I would like to do, say, TikTok posts for you. Can I, for instance, on a busy night, like my local restaurant, my Italian restaurant, they have live music on the street on certain days, right? And actually, at some point, they had someone, a student, who was walking around with a camera, kind of creating some imagery. They came to our table and they asked, hey, are you guys okay with being on camera? We're like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And they filmed some of the action, and that became a TikTok post for that account. And it was a student doing it for them. So those are the types of things. Or you may know, say, a clothing boutique, for instance, near you. And you may say, hey, I wouldn't mind like showing some of their outfits. So how about I go there, go to the local clothing boutique, and I tell them, hey, how about I create some Instagram posts with me wearing these outfits so you can post it. I don't need to buy your clothes or anything like that. I'm just going to do this in your store. I use your dressing room and I just make some selfies and we post it on Instagram so you can show off your new collection. How about that? Something like that, right? So you can be rather creative in those things. And that shows if you later on go to an advertising agency, hey, this person is one, comfortable thinking through a campaign, comfortable being creative with it, and then actually posting this on the right channels. That is really good proof that you have experience in this space. Because you'd be surprised how many companies or even advertising agencies don't feel as comfortable posting things themselves in social media marketing. Often, people who work there have been in these positions for years. And social media marketing and things like TikTok, for instance, may be a little newer for them. And they don't feel as comfortable with how exactly the format should work, how it should exactly look. And younger people or people who just come out of school often have more kind of better hang of how this works, and they have fresh experience going through these tools in school or on courses like the ones from Coursera.
And great answers all around. And I think that that notion of your personal brand, especially for folks who are interested in social media marketing, is a really important one. I think employers are going to look at your social media. They're going to check out your LinkedIn profile. They're going to look at your Instagram account or your Facebook or your TikTok, and they're going to look to see how you're presenting yourself to get to know you better, but also judging, what you're doing on social media in general. So it's a great opportunity that if you're not comfortable going to a brand specifically, you can then just do it on your own. So we've seen a number of people get fantastic roles really by having their own personal brand first and then transitioning to more professional roles in social media as a way to build out their portfolio in social media marketing. So it's another great tip. Thank you, Anka, for answering that question. We have a number of questions around the use of AI. So I'm going to bundle them a little bit so that you can address them kind of in kind. So one, for your early career marketers using AI tools to build their experience, how do they do that without feeling like they're cutting corners? It's one of our questions. Another question is really just about like, what are the most important AI skills that, especially for those entry-level marketing roles, that you see as being really important? And how might someone develop some of these tools, experience, but also not kind of influence too much their own development of their own strategic thinking as well. So I think the broader question is, how do you marry AI skill development and strategic development together to create kind of a more holistic approach to really getting started in your early career?
Right. And yeah, and it's a good question because it is a bit of a balance, right? So, first of all, like, yes, it may feel like you're cutting corners, but if you're doing it the right way, you're not. So, that's one of the things. So, feel confident telling an employer, like, I've used AI for this, and here is how I did it. And one of the things that I would say is the goal that I kind of almost like went over quickly in this kind of presentation, right? But I said always set a goal for your project. And that's important. The goal for your project, AI cannot create for you. That is really where you go and you talk to the company you identified, whether it's a boutique, it's a restaurant, or an animal shelter. You go to them and you say, well, if you think about marketing in general, kind of getting the word out about your organization, what is your main goal? Like, what would you like to achieve? Is it getting as many people as possible? Or is it just getting to the right people? Is it getting more money for your organization? Like, really identify that goal, but do it by talking to the company that you're going to work with. Or if you say it's for a spec company, then really think through what might the goal be of the brand that I mentioned here, Subaru. So imagine, just go and look through kind of what you've seen in the news for them. Try to distill what their goal is. But I would say that's the step where your creativity kind of comes in, right? You have to be able to set that goal. Once you have that goal, then it's definitely fine to go to AI and brainstorm some ideas, right? So say, okay, I know this is going to go on social media. It's going to be social media marketing. It's going to go on Facebook, for instance, or Instagram. Let's brainstorm a few ideas here together. Then the skill that comes in is prompting. Being able to prompt well for social media marketing and to get out the results that you need, that is important. We have actually, in our previous webinar, which you can actually find on YouTube, we went through a framework that you can use for prompting. Soon we will have a mini course come out around that as well. We also have a mini course around AI and social media marketing that also gives you some good clues as to how do you blend in AI in which places and what is the right way to do it. But then I would say, once you start prompting, and we explain that in this course as well, is it's important to take the answer that comes back and keep iterating on that answer. You have to look at AI as your partner. It is not giving you all answers and it's always correct. It's not like that. You have to judge it and say, was this really what I wanted? Is this really good? Can I get it to be better? Does it give me exactly, does it work within the constraints that I gave it, right? Is it the right tone? Is it in line with the brand, etc.? If you later on present your portfolio and you say, well, I used AI, but then you can say, I used AI, but I first set my goal. Then I used a framework as I went through AI that really helped me to set the constraints right, to evaluate what was coming, to iterate on the answers. And we go through that framework in our course. You can actually show that you know how to interact with AI, that you just don't just take its answers for granted, that you fine tune it, that you add your own kind of creative sauce on top of it, right? So that is still important to do. It's important that the employer in the end knows, like, this person knows how to speed up the work with AI, but I won't lose any of the originality in the work as we employ this person. They'll still be good at doing all of those things. And there's certain things that AI can't do. And if you are going to go with your portfolio, for instance, things like footage that you've created yourself, video footage, right? Mix it potentially with some AI footage, but it's really great to show the things that you've done yourself as well. Because that shows them, like, okay, that person knows how to mix these things. You may say, okay, I'm going to go and do a caption. For the caption, I'm going to use AI, but then I'm going to generate the hashtags myself, for instance, and you can detail some of that. So I would say use it, show that you can use it, but blend it with your own personal touch, and always look through the answers, make sure everything is correct, and judge that you think it is good. Because in the end, you want to be able to stand up for this portfolio and say, I created it. Yes, with the help of AI, and that's totally fine, but this is my portfolio and I feel good about it.
And that brings us to some questions really about mindset and how folks are feeling about the whole application process and maybe feeling a little bit hesitant to start applying for roles now, or, what does readiness even look like? I think someone asked as a question. And so, do you have any advice around kind of that mindset shift that people need to go through when they are in that application process?
Right. And actually, it comes, a lot of it comes down to preparation work, right? As in so many things in life, right? If you feel prepared, you're going to feel way more confident. And that preparation work involves a few steps. It involves creating your resume, setting up your LinkedIn profile, creating your portfolio if you can, kind of making sure that you can go through kind of some of like you can put a story together about where you are right now, network with people, talk to other people, and then preparing potentially for like, well, first it is kind of finding the job opportunities out there, filtering them, applying to them with your resume and a cover letter, and then also preparing for interviews. All of those steps are, I think they're really important. And what we did is we created a course. Actually, it's a specialization now on Coursera. You can also find a course on edX that helps people prepare for your next role. Right? So if you really want to take all those prep steps, this course walks you through it start to finish. And if you go through this program, you literally come out with your resume ready, your LinkedIn profile ready. You know what email to use to reach out to people in your network. You know what kind of how to write your cover letter. You know where to use AI in that part of the process as well. Like, when is it okay to use AI for these steps, right? We go through all of that. And I think it's, if you feel like not so confident yet in this job search, this is a really good next step. Go through that course, get the whole portfolio set up. You'll have everything at the end, right? You've got your resume, you've got your outreach emails, and you can get started. And it also has a lot of advice on what to do about interviewing, like how to prep for an interview, how to feel confident that you're kind of really prepared for the interview. Also, what questions you should ask in the interview. Because, yes, they're going to ask lots of questions of you, but it's really good to be prepared with a few questions of your own. Bring your portfolio. We talk about that as well. Show it to people, leave it there, send a follow up note, all of those good things. You'll have it all ready. So, I would think it's a good place to start. And I think as you've gone through these courses, feel confident that you actually have knowledge, right? If you went through, say, the social media marketing program, or if you got the certification from Meta, you should feel very confident that you are in a really good position, because not that many people have these credentials, right? So you're standing out just because of having the credentials, and having studied these tools. So I would say, just try not to be too hesitant. Every interview occasion you get, or every application occasion you get, is a little bit of experience that you'll learn from, even if you don't get the job, and you can apply that to the next application process you go through. And ultimately, you will find that role that really works for you.
Thanks so much, Anka. And we've had a few people while you were talking really ask about how to deal with the what, and I'm going to frame it in the way that I'm seeing it as the constant rejection, and then not getting feedback from companies where they're getting, much more in the way of form letters versus actual applicable feedback that they can then use future set when they're looking for a new job. Um, and I know we hear this a lot from, from friends, from family, as well as our learners, that this is a common thing that people go through when they are applying for a role.
It is, it is. And actually, and we see this nowadays, right? So there are many kind of computer systems that go through applications, right? And it means that it's often easier to send out many applications, because you can apply through LinkedIn or something like that. It's kind of easier to apply. It's also easier to reject. And there are often tons of applications that come in for one job, right? So that is discouraging. And you get this kind of standard letter. It didn't even tell you like why your resume wasn't a fit, and you kind of don't know. It's tricky. So, and I actually have seen this with people very close to me, or also just kind of just finished their studies and they've gone through the same thing. And what I try and tell them is, one, it's important if you want to get good feedback, go to people that you know, like friends of yours, family, acquaintances, people that are in related roles, or maybe kind of just they just have a role and they may be able to give you real feedback on your resume. Like, feel like just it's a little, you have to be, it's a little bit, it opens up some vulnerabilities, right? But you go to someone and you say, hey, can you take a look at my resume? Can you point me to how this comes across? Be very honest with me. Where can I improve? That is one step, because then you'll get real feedback from a person that will actually kind of walk you through what they're thinking. The other thing that I often do as well is I also tell them, like, before you even do that, put your resume also in ChatGPT or Gemini and tell it to be critical. Because one of the things we see with ChatGPT and Gemini, you'll all have experienced this, right? You're always amazing. But sometimes you really want that feedback where it doesn't just tell you you're amazing, but you want to improve, right? So tell it like, hey, be critical, look at my resume. I'm applying for this type of job. What is it missing? Or how should I kind of, what can I do to stand out more? That's something you can do as well. And then the other thing I see
Yeah.
is just because it's so, things are so kind of machine driven right now, and you have all this software kind of behind things, it does help to network. Networks are your best friend, right? So it really try to find other people that hold roles that you aspire to, talk to them, reach out to them, send them almost cold emails at time, try to just find the time with them to chat about their experience, what they're doing, and then hopefully that way you over time find jobs that may be open and that person knows you and is able to recommend you. Because that does help to make you stand out. The way it often works in large companies is they have a general system where all the resumes come in from the external world. But if someone internally who's already in the company knows someone, they can submit the resume and that gets priority. They always look at those first. So if you know of people that are in companies that you really like, try network with them, see whether there are openings. If you find an opening on LinkedIn, for instance, check whether you know anyone that knows a person that works at that company, and try, make the effort to see whether they can introduce you somehow, right? In the meantime, also send your resume, but it's still a good idea to try and do that. And I think when you can, the companies will say like that the application letter is optional, right? So they want a resume and a letter. The letter is often optional. If it's optional, still create your letter, because that's a way for you to highlight a few things of your resume and say why you're a good fit for that company. So really take that opportunity to use that as well. So those are a few suggestions that I would have, and don't get discouraged. It is really like that. It takes a while, and it's like that for everyone. And those kind of rejection letters that you get where you feel like, hey, they haven't really even opened my resume, no one has really looked at it, don't get discouraged by those. Just put those aside and try to find real feedback from people that you know that are really willing to help you.
Thank you so much, Anka. We are actually at time. I'm going to just give a few quick reminders. So everyone who has registered for this webinar will receive an email with the recording. So if you registered for the email, don't worry, you'll get it automatically. The webinar is also going to be on our YouTube channel. So if you have not received it and you're on our YouTube and you didn't register, don't worry, you can still watch the webinar again after this. And for those of you who want to continue the conversation after this call, please join our Facebook group. And the link is both on YouTube and it's on the Zoom call as well. And just a big thank you from us. Thank you to the Appley team for helping to make this happen. And thank you for all of you who have joined us today. Eileen, do you have any closing remarks in addition?
No, just thank you, everyone. Anka and Rebecca, thank you both, as always, for answering these questions. I know it is so nice to be able to interact. It's one of the benefits of joining the Zoom call is you can ask some questions live. So we appreciate everybody who joined us today, the Appley team. Thanks, everyone. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day or night, whatever the case may be, wherever you are in the world. So thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.